Hi, beautiful friends. Today we are going to continue a conversation from my last video where I was talking about karmic marriages, long-term relationships, being with a man and having children and being on an ascension journey and listening to guidance and all of that that's happening as we are navigating all of that. I put out a question on Instagram, what are you navigating right now? And I got this really just such a beautiful, tender, honest response from a woman who said she's trying to decipher the truth in her the truth about her relationship and what just feels like her hopefulness, right? And I knew exactly what she was talking about. And I'm sure that you can relate to that too, as really magical women who are awakening, and we have this incredible vision, and we can access timelines that are just like our full body yes, right? When we are able to do that, it's so important to be able to have really grounded discernment with us in that journey. So I thought it would be really good to continue the conversation from the last video and go in a little bit deeper about how you can know when you're being hopeful and what is the truth that you need. Now, in that last video, I shared the Magdalene, what shall we call it? The invitation that I felt Mary Magdalene come to me when I was really in such a low point in my own relationship in this past month. She really came to me, and there was a very strong feeling of the justice card. It's about the truth, right? It's about our truth, the real truth. And I know this year, there will be future videos on this, but there's been a huge collective disillusionment that we've been going through, where we are on so many different levels that, again, we'll talk about in future videos. We're starting to see the way that things really are. And that, as a passionate woman, right, in a romantic relationship, we can struggle, and it understandably so, to understand when are we being too hopeful and when is it like this is the right thing. Okay, so one thing that I will say is, in that last video I shared about washing my partner's feet and the back of his head and his hands, and really spending some time like working on that clearing. And essentially I shared about a moment of coming to him with as much as my own purity as I possibly could. It took me like an hour to get into like a really good space before I could do this, especially because we were going through a really hard time at that time. And the gift that I gave him, right, was that feminine, that divine feminine transmission and healing, compassion. I see you, I love you, right? The gift that was given to me then is that discernment is yours. When you open your heart in an act of service completely, and you just give everything, you are blessed then with receiving, like, you know how things are. So let me try to think of how to say that in a different way. When you give something your all, okay, then take some time to then witness what is coming towards you then. What then are you receiving in the days following? And it is so important to really slow down and to really set aside times of silence. And I completely know, as a mother, that means then you're gonna have to either like wake up an hour earlier before everyone or stay up an hour later, and really, and it's like no screens, no phone, no Wi-Fi, even like turn that thing off and just be with like, okay, what am I receiving from this relationship? What is coming at me emotionally, psychically, spiritually? There is that moment to really invoke the Justice card and discernment and finding your voice. And when you are able to make that connection to your voice, it starts to unravel. And you can start to see, as you look through the story of, in this case, you know, she's talking about a relationship, right? When you can really, like, what is it that your higher self is pinging, those flashes of the timeline of your time together? Does it feel like, wow, we've really grown a lot together? Man, it's been difficult, but wow, look at the growth and look how much better we both are because of it, even though it's been really challenging. Or maybe it's like something else, you know? If you are in that place where you're like, I don't know if I'm just like hoping, or is the truth different than my hopefulness, than my magical thinking? I would say something that was very powerful for me was to show up very intentionally with everything that I had for an hour, right, or more, and then step away. I will say, if you can remove yourself from making love and like from that, you're gonna have a much easier time staying with your truth. Okay, and that's a funny thing, I think, for someone to say who is married, but there are times where it is important to, your energetic field needs to be in a completely sovereign state. And I'm not saying if you're having sex you can't like be in a sovereign state. That's not what I'm saying. It's just that like sometimes it's really helpful to remove that element to just make it easier for yourself. So like give yourself 3 weeks or whatever to like where that's not part of the equation, so that there can be a really grounded clarity. And that is where I see it a lot, where you can get kind of mixed back up into this really hopeful thing and as women, we just have to be so careful with how our hormones work and how our physiology, how our nature is, right? Because then we are attached, we are in. My friend Jocelyn is such a beautiful teacher about this. You guys should follow her on Instagram and look through some of her work. She's such a good, solid woman in my life who I recommend that you check out if you are navigating that. It's a lot easier to make very clear decisions when you've had some space. I would say the reason I've been able to be not just married for this long, but it's like married plus kids plus both of us really devoted to like our consciousness as much as we can be, as available as we can be. Hasn't been perfect at all. In fact, when that trinity of like life is going on, when those three things are happening, it's gonna get really bumpy. Like it just is. Like it just is going to feel like a big mess sometimes, because in seeing a mess, you're able to get more honest. You're able to see like how to clean it up and how to not make that mess again. That moment, or that split feeling of like, oh, am I being really hopeful? And like, you know, in that really kind of immature magical thinking kind of thing. Or am I really willing to listen to what my higher self has to say? Because there, more often than not, our guidance is leading us to the edge of something that just makes us want to vomit. Like, it just feels like, are you serious? It's not, you know, that's where the growth is happening. That's where the light is coming in, is when you feel like you're being ripped apart. And for those of you on the path, like, you just know what I'm talking about. There's no, like, why pretend like that's not real? Because it's very real. However, I know that when you can remind yourself and you can ask yourself for compassion, for gentleness, and for what it is that you really need, you're going to be able to navigate. You will navigate that gracefully. How do I know that? Because I do it. That is my life. My life is like encountering one mess after another with as much grace as and listening and keeping it together and calm as I can. I don't win at that like all the time, but like I show up for it as consistently as I can. And that's so much of what I'm talking about in Motherhood Muscle, that free course, is like, we are building. If you're a mother, if you're in a marriage and you're on your ascension journey, welcome to, like, you have the opportunity to be the queen. Why? Because life is teaching you on so many different levels all the time. If you can do that, you are receiving the queen codes. And that is the best to me. To me, that's like the best, because it's like our goddess nature embodied, because we're saying yes to such a big teacher, right? Marriage, huge teacher. Motherhood, the biggest, baddest teacher. You know, doing that in 2021, really big teacher. I have so much respect for those of you who are doing that. And I know what it's like to be kind of like in this, what shall we call it, community, or wanting to connect with others who are on that ascension path and feeling weird because you are a wife and a mother. And it's time for us to not let that get in our way. And in fact, like, the weirdness, that energy of where it feels weird, or you see the hashtag mom life and it's just like, ugh, like that, whatever that is. Do you know what I'm talking about? When you have this weird relationship to doing all these things at this time, that can be turned into jet fuel, like absolute, or diamonds to put in your crown. I mean that. And I hope the mothers listening, I hope you feel empowered. I hope that the mess, this seemingly like, wow, things feel really like, wow. I hope you can laugh at that. And I hope that you can see how much mastery wants to come through you right now. Grace, feminine healing, the feminine future that I feel, and the vision that I feel for all of us. That is going to come through a lot of people, but Holy Mother, you know, I often thought about, I was like, why was Mother Mary called Mother Mary? I think it's time for us to really resurrect and have like such a deeper respect for that word mother. the daily everything, you know? You never get to check out. You never really get a break after you become a mother. It's like, it's done for this lifetime. You will always be a mother. Always. Always. And that is so, I bow to other mothers. And it's not to take away from any of you who aren't mothers or who haven't done that, or like who want to be mothers and you don't have children yet. But there are those of us who have done it, and it's the hardest thing that I've ever done. And I've done a lot of things, and I've lived a huge life already. I love you so much. I love you so, so much. I hope that this video has helped you connect deeper into your truth. I would love it if you liked this video and shared with me in the comments what was helpful, or any further like discussion or conversations that would be inspiring or helpful for you. In the description, I'm gonna have links to offerings and any way you wanna go deeper. I'll make sure that that's listed below. I love you so much. I love you so much. Thank you for being here with me, and I will see you in the next video.